Today we're going to learn everything about pumpkins and the pumpkin family, so that includes
butternut squash, acorn squash, and so many other types, even including one with shell seeds ready to roast.
These guys you want to use in your kitchen because they're full of carotens, which is your vitamin A. Your body converts it into vitamin A. So many different vitamin Bs, so you got B1, B3, B5, which is pantothenic acid, and this is essential for your body to make blood cells and also for your body to convert food into energy.
They're also loaded with potassium, vitamin C, dietary fiber, and vitamin B9, also called folic acid.
Folic acid is really important for pregnant women as it's essential for preventing birth defects when it comes to spine and brain deformities. And the seeds, pumpkin seeds, oh my god, they're like the underdog of superfood. They have so much zinc, so many minerals like iron and magnesium. They're great for men to prevent
and reduce symptoms of BPH, which is enlargement of the prostate, and for women to aid with hormone balancing. We visit the Queen Farm in the outskirts of Montreal to learn more about the farming practices and the harvesting process.
We're with the owner, Phil, who's going to tell us everything about pumpkins.
Planting pumpkins. Okay, first thing in the spring, we go ahead and work the land up. The previous fall, it's been plowed. We work it up, nice seed bed there. We actually put seed in the ground. We don't transplant. Come mid-June, we'll go along and put a good coat of compost over the entire field. Yeah. It's amazing how much more nitrogen is kept in the soil if you've got high organic matter. Organic matter between the soil and the actual pumpkin will keep the soil from sticking to it. So whenever our guests pick them up, they're nice and clean. They're not growing on soil, they're growing on a mulch bed. That mulch bed will help keep moisture in the ground. It'll help keep weeds down as well. And of course, increasing organic matter, which will help conserve water in the following years as well. It's a trickle irrigation system.
Right.
It's all done right now.
Oh.
It's a 20 millimeter gauge, and there's little tiny emitters here every 30 centimeters or so. That's called trickle irrigation. It'll just drip, drip, drip all day long.
I was shocked to find out how many different types of squash there are, and Phil took us around the field to explore some of them.
What's this one? You gotta know this one.
That's a spaghetti squash.
Bingo!
Yay! 10 points.
This one here?
Butternut squash.
Butternut. Oh my goodness, a connoisseur.
Love my squash.
The buttercup and sweet mama, not to be confused.
Oh yeah, they're super similar, just this is more square.
Yep, more square, and it's got a little blossom end.
Right.
I don't know, turban type thing.
A little butthole.
Yeah. This one here, the sweet mama. Nice dark orange flesh to it.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. That's a lot of carotens for you there.
Yep. Now, it looks like a funky pumpkin. You can use it to decorate right through the Halloween. You can carve it like any other pumpkin. It's got the green lines to it, but inside here, haha, look at that. The seeds,
oh my god, they're ready to eat.
They're naked. You just roast them.
This is the best thing for your prostate. There's a large amount of zinc in the cells of your prostate, which are constantly losing, so you need to replenish. So it's really important for men to eat pumpkin seeds. And also for women because it increases estrogen, especially from day 1 to 14 of your cycle.
This one here is futsu.
That looks beautiful. I love that one.
It looks like it's got the mildew on it all the time. You can wash it off, but it's not mildew. It's just a natural protection on the fruit. Tan cheese will have a lot the same meat as your butternut. And here we've got 2 different varieties of butternut. On squash, did you know there are 2 different kinds of flower on the plant?
No.
Look at this one here is being pollinated. And look at the pollen on its abdomen there now. On the black part of its abdomen, you'll see the yellow bits. That's all pollen.
Yeah.
Now this here, whoa, is a female flower, whereas this one here is a male flower. Look at the difference. The way you get new ones is always through pollination. You'll take the flower from a butternut here, and let's say you'll take the pollen, the male flower, from an acorn squash, and you'll mix the two and see what you get out of that. Sometimes it's a flop, sometimes, oh wow, look at what we found. It's amazing.
The swan is curled up and romanticizes the little female swan. And then they have a bond. And they mate.
This is called a knucklehead. You might want to wear gloves if you're handling this one. STDs, squash transmitted diseases, are not something to take lightly. No, I'm kidding. It's just a gnarly variety.
We learn about the 3 sisters, corn, beans, and squash. Long ago, the First Nations noticed the relationship between these 3 and embraced it as an efficient farming method.
the corn serves as a tutor for your beans. And what's amazing with the beans as well, First Nation had it all figured out long before we came here. The beans are part of the legume family. The legumes take nitrogen out of the air and fix it in the ground. Corn being a high nitrogen crop, they work super well together. Corn needs a lot of nitrogen, and beans will steal it out of the air and fix it into the ground for the corn to use. And now the pumpkins and squash are usually planted all around to keep predators out. I don't know if you've noticed.
Prickly, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed with your sandals there when you're walking through here, you'll feel it's kind of prickly. Raccoons don't like to go through pumpkins and squash to get to the corn.
Do you guys use that symbiotic relationship here?
We do crop rotation. It's kind of hard to keep control on pests and stuff whenever it's all mixed in together. We'll do crop rotation. Last year we had sweet corn growing here, which is a high nitrogen crop. The squash here this year, not quite as high nitrogen. Next year we'll go in with beans. Right. And then soybeans is what we do. And then we go back into corn. It's a 3-year rotation.
Amazing. We're making a flute?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever try to grow like ginormous?
We haven't for a long time. My brother-in-law used to be with us here at the farm, and he really enjoyed growing those. The biggest one he ever grew was about 600 pounds.
Whoa, wow. That's huge.
And the biggest we've ever had here on display was grown by Mr. Jim Bryson in Ormstown, and it was about 1,600 pounds.
There are a few tricks to picking a good squash at the store.
One is that it should be pretty heavy for its size. And you want it to be firm, as if it's a little soft. It means that moisture might have got in there, and that's going to be lacking in flavor. You also want the skin to be dull as opposed to glossy. These guys can last up to like 6 months, as long as you keep them in away from the direct sunlight and not exposed to any extreme temperatures. As for the seeds, once you roast them, those can last up to 6 months as well if you keep them in an airtight container. And if you make sure that no moisture gets in there, and maybe even keep them in the fridge, that's going to help keep them for longer as well. I really like keeping those in hand at all times, so it's nice to just make a big batch and keep it in the fridge, because they're just so packed with nutrients that it's nice to just have them as a snack. Phil from Quint Farms was so generous and gave us so many pumpkins and squash, so he gave us Lady Godiva, which is a type of squash that the seeds are already shelled, which is sweet because then it's not super fibrous. So we're going to take those seeds out and we're going to roast them. And I'll do the ones from the acorn as well, even though they have shells, because they're still pretty good and nutritious. Then we're going to make some curry. So I've got some ginger left over from a tea that I made, so it's just the actual pulp. And Phil also gave us a dangerous pepper. Anyways, it's spicy. And we got some leeks, curry powder. You can also just do like cumin, turmeric, and make your own curry powder. Got some coconut oil, coconut milk, and a new grain that I had never seen before. It's called quinoa. And it's similar to quinoa, just a different type. So we're going to mix that up with rice and then make a squash curry and pour it on top.
First, we get our hands dirty picking the seeds out of the squash. This would be a great activity to give your kids to do while you're doing some chopping.
When your hands are full of squash, that's how you drink beer.
We rinse the seeds, let them dry, add the oil and the spices, and shove them in the oven until nicely roasted. We put the squash halves in the oven with oil and salt until soft, and then we chop up the veggies and start on the curry, letting the spices infuse into the oil for a little while before adding the rest of the veggies, the coconut milk, and more spices. And it's ready to serve over rice and quinoa with some roasted pumpkin seeds for a little crunch. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this episode and want to see more, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.
It's beautiful.
It's working.